Allies imposed their moral narrative on those who lost. Remember, if you think about the Stoics, and I argued that the Nazi regime was a Stoic ethic. So doing your duty to the state was your highest duty. So when the state told you to kill all these people, your highest duty was to kill all those people. Our narrative imposed on the Nazi regime said, no, you have a higher moral narrative that says you should not kill innocent people. Always ends up in conflict in a war zone. We still see this with Gaza. We still see it with Russia and Ukraine. We see it in Sudan. Is there a right side to what's going on in Sudan? And there's more than one thing going on in Sudan. I mean, in the north, in Darfur, however you say it, you have the Rapid Deployment Force, the RDF, whatever, that are fighting the government, and they even destroyed the museums. All the Theban Egyptian museums that taught culture, how far back that thousands of years of culture and art, and they went in and they destroyed the museum, destroyed all the artifacts, stole them. That's in northern Sudan. Southern Sudan, you have the Dinka and the Nuer people fighting one another. And those two tribes of people have been fighting one another since Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah, whatever. I mean, as far as we know, they've been fighting one another constantly. My one friend, Jack Hickle, says that you need to get the weapons away instead of having all these powerful weapons being sold to the tribes. But of course, it's not actually going to stop the fighting. It'll just change it from being a machine gun to a club, more traditional. So who has the moral right to impose their point of view? The Nazis declared that they had to do what they were ordered to do, or they would be killed. Sartre points out that you are free. You're condemned to be free by being human, because of course he's accepting this Hegelian dialectic that you have the in itself arguing with the for itself, and so you have both sides of the self that's deciding, should I kill these people or should I not? So whatever you decide, it's your decision. It's not like you were forced to do anything. You were deciding it. And so afterwards, when we look at whether you were guilty or not, the answer is yes, you're guilty of whatever you've done. You couldn't have been forced to do it. Because as an existentialist, there is no such thing as I didn't have any choice. That's wrong. That's inauthentic. You're inauthentic if you don't believe that you have the choice. That's mauvaise foi, bad faith. You need to be authentic. Existentialism is a humanism. Is this fun? Next class, though, we're moving on to Marxism. By the way, I read in the Northern Light, the little newspaper, our student newspaper, that we had a communist standing outside of the library.
I'm friends with that guy.
You're friends with him?
He's an interesting character.
Yeah. Is he deliberately quoting from Charlie Kirk?
Yes.
Yes. I was wondering.
That's why he supports the Communist Party that he supports, because they're willing to have conversations with conservatives. It makes me respect him more than other socialists. I'm not a socialist myself, but
Communism and socialism aren't the same thing.
That's my.
Wait, I thought that's the second quiz question.
That's the second quiz question.
I respect him more than other communists because of that reason.
I think it's funny how communism preaches no government control and everybody is equal, but every communist thing that's ever tried to be done Always insane with the dictatorship that suppresses the people. It's hilarious.
I'm convinced that the only communist societies that succeed are monasteries and convents. And not just Catholic ones. I mean, there are Greek islands where the whole island is just one big
Because they're all willing to give
Orthodox
up
monastery.
They're all willing to give up their individual rights for the whole.
Yeah,
There's nobody.
yeah. Those
are-
work. Although, you have to keep in mind that I think all of those such monasteries are supported by the capitalist society that's around them. I don't think they could survive on their own without support from outside.
There are indigenous people that survive on their own without support from the
Maybe.
outside.
But there,
And then they'll kill the missionaries that come to talk to them. So I've all heard that story.
and the communes, B.F. Skinner in Walden 2. Is it? Everyone's familiar with Walden?
Mhm.
Walden, well, it's kind of silly, but you've got a book about living on your own around the lake. Walden Pond. Yes? No? Maybe so. B.F. Skinner, the psychologist who argues for behaviorism. The mind is invisible, so don't take it into account when you're basically trying to solve human problems. Instead, just use observation and use stimulus response training in order to fix somebody we think, well, there's a mental issue. Well, we can't understand the mental, so just go to stimulus response training, right? Well, one of the things he did was he wrote Walden 2. This was a contemporary book. Well, at least one of the ones, so 48, but one of his later books was Beyond Freedom and Dignity. But I'm getting off the point, and I never do that, so I'll go back to Carl. So next class, we're moving on to Carl, and my main argument with Carl is that while he takes what Kierkegaard is all focused on and disregards it entirely, because he's absolutely convinced we're a social being. We can only be what our society makes us become. We have no freedom. What a ridiculous thing, says Carl, right? No such thing. If I'm a class being, my social class has made me become the way and think the way I do. Karl Marx was in the same class with Kierkegaard listening to Friedrich Schelling in 1841-42. I'm not sure if they were in the same room together. It seems absolutely clear that they didn't know one another. But here they're both listening to Schelling espouse this dialectical idealism, and Kierkegaard goes one way and Marx goes the other. It just seems absolutely fascinating. They both thought Hegel was wrong, which is the main thing that Schelling was trying to teach people, because he was still pissed off that his friend Hegel had betrayed him and made his philosophy seem to be just a mere stepping stone to Hegel's philosophy. How dare he? So he was trying to show how Hegel was wrong. So he's got two students that both think Hegel's wrong. And the one thinks Hegel's wrong because he thinks that there is this society that imposes its will on us when it's clear that we're completely independent and trapped because of that. And Marx takes the other point of view, says that's totally false, we're not independent at all. And that absolutely seems pretty clear when we look at a history, a biography of Kierkegaard. We could see bit by bit how he became the way he did. And yet at the same time, as we look at communist societies, which we don't really have any successful versions of those, totalitarian states, yes, but at the same time, his idea is completely crap. It never works. It never works. For good reasons. We've got lots of good ways of seeing exactly what's wrong with it. All it does is actually make everybody poor. It does make everybody equal. All men are created equal, and none of them can afford health care. None of them can take a vacation. None of them get time off. None of them get, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the quiz question was, what do you think of Kierkegaard's Night of Fear and Trembling? And Wednesday we'll talk about Karl, and the quiz question I'll have for that will be, what's the difference between communism and socialism? And my main contemporary that I refer to is Thomas Piketty, and I talk about that. Oh, I don't know what language that is, but it's capital. What language is that?
Turkish?
I don't know. Capital in the 21st century. So that's his update. One of the main books of Karl Marx is Das Kapital, which means capital, which is about how you have stock markets and people that own business. You teach at the University of Alaska. You don't pay into Social Security. You have a Fidelity 401k. So back in '95, they gave me a 401k account. And instead of putting money into Social Security, they put the money into the 401k. Plus they added money so that you end up with a 401k account that you could retire off of, which makes you a stockholder. Whether you like it or not, that was your only choice. So,
Military generated pensions.
yeah.
They're putting it, they're matching TSP just like normal.
Okay. Be safe out there. The roads are, bless you. They're safe as long as you're slow. And watch for everyone driving around you, because people lose control of their car.
Is there any women philosophers that are super popular?
Yes. Judith Butler I mentioned a couple times today. My favorite is Martha Nussbaum. She's a contemporary that teaches philosophy and law in the University of Chicago. But then there's Ellie Anderson. She's your age, and she's a philosopher in Pomona College. Ellie Anderson. I've put several links.
That's my
occasionally.
cousin's name.
Ellie Anderson?
Yeah.
This is, let me show you her. Ellie Anderson here.
Oh, wait.
Cricketer. Oh, I want this one. That one.
None from before, like,